centuries, futurists have been dreaming about something called cryonics. It's the idea that we should freeze people in liquid nitrogen after they die, preserving their bodies until science can find a way to bring them back to life. Since then, cryonics has been featured in movies and TV shows and gotten a ton of attention, but it's never really taken off. Partly that's because it's expensive, more than $100,000 at the big cryonics centers. And partly it's because it kind of sounds like a sci-fi gimmick. But thanks to new developments in life extension science, cryonics is making a comeback. And I'm going to meet one San Francisco tech worker, Dan Held, who's considering signing up. So when I first started looking into cryonics, I was pretty skeptical. It seems strange to me, especially the way it works, where you're freezing your body after you've died. I don't know if I completely believe that it works, but as I've learned more about it and some of the research they've done in bringing people back after they've been dead for 40 minutes or bringing worms back after freezing them, I'm starting to think that maybe the science is there. We're in San Francisco, and we're going to meet this 27-year-old who's thinking about signing up for a cryonics plan. He's an early adopter, he loves Bitcoin, he loves drones, and now he's interested in this technology, cryonics. He wants to live forever. So, Dan, why are you thinking about signing up for this cryonics plan?
I'm not really afraid of dying. I'm going to live my life as I always do. But there's no reason it has to end if there's medical technology that could advance it or preserve it for someday in the future.
Are you skeptical at all?
You know, I have a very limited understanding so far, so if I can increase that understanding, maybe I will see cryonics as I saw the same future in Bitcoin and drones.
There are only a handful of cryonics facilities in America. The one we're going to, TransTime, is located in a nondescript industrial complex in San Leandro. It's a strange place to find a cryonics lab, but then again, everything about cryonics is strange.
Dan Held.
My name is Steve Guerin. Nice to meet you. Would you like me to show you around?
That'd be fantastic.
Okay, come on. This is our, we call it our doer hall. And doers are basically just very large thermoses where you store your coffee or your cold drinks. We actually store patients in there in liquid nitrogen.
So just to be clear, there are 3 dead people in these tanks who paid $120,000 for the chance to live forever. Cryonics has its own insider lingo. You don't say someone's dead, you say they're suspended. The bodies inside these tanks aren't corpses, they're patients. And people here still talk about these bodies as if they just went on vacation and they'll be back in a week or 2.
And we have this viewing area, so loved ones and people who knew the patients can come and basically visit them. I mean, there's no flowers involved because, again, the person's not really dead yet. We certainly hope they're going to be revived and come back to life, and you know. So that's kind of how we like to treat this place. It's almost like a hospital. We replace their blood with a cryoprotectant to minimize any freezing damage. We also insert thermocouples, which are basically thermometers, so we can keep track of their core body temperature. And then from there, we would take them down to -80. As far as the technology goes, there are no computers involved, there's no electricity involved. There's only 2 things that we need to do, is monitor your temperature and make sure that we top up with liquid nitrogen every 3 weeks.
Are there backup systems, you know, just in case the liquid nitrogen, you know, you don't get a shipment or the electricity goes out?
Right. The people in the dewars are actually upside down, so their heads are at the very bottom. So as you know, the liquid nitrogen evaporates to the top, right? And so the levels go down and down and down. And so if we don't replenish, they will continue to go down. But the last part of your body that will be basically exposed to higher temperatures will be your head. If everything fails, you have at least probably about 2 months before basically it's too late.
Does the $120,000, does that cost the initial freezing?
Everything.
What's the term of the contract?
Until we can unfreeze you.
Okay, so it's
as long as it takes.
When do you think that's going to be?
From what I can tell, roughly about 30 years.
How certain are you that he's going to come back out?
I'm very certain. I mean, I'm as certain as technology will keep on getting better. And I think that's a pretty sure bet.
Cryonics challenges our idea of what death is. And that forces us to think harder about how life works. At the core of cryonics is the idea that we're machines that can be fixed.
A lot of people have driver's licenses and have donor cards. But then you would ask the question, but when I'm dead, doesn't that mean my organs die too? And the answer is obviously not, because if that would be the case, you wouldn't be donating your organs, right? these organs that are supposedly dead are flown across the country and they're put into people.
So almost like a half a day later.
Exactly.
Right.
You've heard of people freezing their eggs and stem cells and fertilized embryos. Well, they're frozen in liquid nitrogen. I think kind of things really started to change is when we got the defibrillator. People who used to, quote, die, heart attack, while they would call the EMTs, the defibrillator would come out, they'd zap them and they'd not be dead anymore. So were they dead or what were they? What is death?
Right.
Well, I think we have to redefine what that is, actually, because it's not a clear thing anymore.
Dan isn't the only young tech worker who's interested in cryonics. He's going to meet Louis Helm, another tech worker who has already signed up to be frozen when he dies.
If I think of my brain like a hard drive, a hard drive isn't immediately erased the second you turn off the power or something like that. We know that brains don't immediately lose all of their memories the second your heart stops beating.
That's kind of the debate, right? And that's why I was so interested in cryonics was that, what is death?
A lot of people don't deal with end-of-life situations logically, I would say. I think my mom had a lot of concerns. She's very religious, so she was telling me well, what does it matter? You're already saved through the power of Jesus Christ. This isn't really going against that, in my view. There's nothing in the Bible about not trying to do more to help yourself.
I agree.
Just
Otherwise,
that.
You wouldn't take medicine.
Right. I think one of the real benefits is you get invested in the future, right? The future now turns from something that you hope works out to you need to make it work out. Because if there's no future, you don't have anywhere to go. I never try and give anyone the impression that I think that it's guaranteed to work, because it's not. Business could fail. It might turn out that there's some process that neurons undergo that might be unsolvable. It all lowers the chance that it might work, but
You're going to be gone anyways.
yeah, it's still a good bet.
From my understanding, you sign over a portion of your life insurance.
I pay around $35 a month. I mean, that's
affordable
that's
for-
lower than my cell phone bill, and I can live forever.
It's a very low payment for the return.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a skeptical part of me that I just don't think of the human body as computer hardware that we can just rebuild and restart and it's still us. So I remain skeptical, and I wonder if cryonics isn't just this kind of faith-based science. The science of freezing a human body hasn't changed that much in the last 50 years, but the science of bringing frozen people back is getting much more interesting. Steve Guerin wants to take Dan to his anti-aging facility at the Berkeley lab to show off some of their recent developments.
So, Dan, what you're looking at there is basically a map of the living process, and aging is just that process running for a very long time, in most cases 80 years. So imagine a symphony, okay? We're trying to figure out who the players are, what the music looks like, in order to figure out what's causing this degradation in the music, as it were, the music of life.
Say I go through this cryogenics process and I got frozen when I was 85 and I come back when I'm 85.
Right.
How does any of this help me with that?
We're working on a 3D printer that will be able to print out new body parts for those parts that are damaged or destroyed through aging. It's still in the development stage, but a lot of the components are there as far as the print head and the syringes and so on. So the principle for 3D printers is very similar, except the material that we use is different. And so instead of using plastic, we're basically using cells as the ink, if you want to call it that. Organ transplants are routine and take place all the time, so that technology already exists. The difference would be is we would use Dan's own cells. He would not have to take anti-rejection drugs or any of that. It would be his tissue.
It's a perfect fit.
It's a perfect fit.
So you've made a decision.
I've made a decision. I'm going to sign up.
Do you feel like you're not an especially skeptical person? You're not worried that you're being taken advantage of or that this won't work?
If you look at some of the science behind this, it's well documented, it's sourced, it's been done before in animals. I think a lot of people just haven't given it enough thought. I think they're so wrapped up in the day-to-day that some of these questions they would rather just not think about.